couple things today. Oops, our list of assignments that we have. So we've done the product one, which was the Pokeball. The mechanical one was the gear thing. We did our challenge. The props is the gaming assets that we did, right? Those first couple ones that were practice ones. And then I'm skipping down to environmental assets, and that's like more of the gaming stuff. So just like the little box or whatever, that would be just the prop, and then the environmental assets would be like the bigger things that you may have built for your environment. Okay, so we still have a couple things that I want to cover this semester. Next week we'll be doing another challenge. Okay, so again, focusing on just some basic modeling skills, UV layout, texturing, and then rendering your stuff out. Today I want to also go over 3D scanning. So I brought in my Connect, and I'll go over that in a little bit so you can see how to actually scan something, and I want you to scan something, okay? That way you have something and you can turn it in and get a grade. Should be a super easy grade, seeing as how the computer is doing most of the work. And then I also want to kind of reintroduce ZBrush. If you haven't used it before or it's been a while, I want to touch on that now so that you can start getting refreshed into it as we're going to start building more into ZBrush. And then the last big assignment that we're going to have is going to be the vehicle. Okay, so a lot of these modeling tools that we've been using so far is going to kind of culminate into this vehicle that we can model. And then that's pretty much it. The semester is pretty over. If you don't have them done, yes. Okay. The prop are the little game assets, like when I did the box or whatever. And then the bigger environmental assets would be like my billboard or my street lamp or my trash can, those kinds of things. Um, the props were like the box, where I just had a box and I just put textures on each side, right? Or the coin that was just like a cylinder with just textures on each side. Super simple stuff. Well, it could be, right. Make super simple stuff then, there's your props. Or if your stuff is already kind of simple, then expand on that to make your environmental assets. Okay? But these ones here, the props and the environmental assets, are all the gaming things. Okay? So we have, today is the 27th of March. We're here all this week and all next week. The 10th, we're only here on Monday. And then we have 3 weeks and we're done. Okay, so the semester, we have basically like 5-ish weeks left of classes to get everything kind of wrapped up. So I'm going to just save that. So I'm going to show how I want you to turn in your gaming stuff. Where is my? There it is. All right, so for your game, this is the easiest way to turn stuff in. Okay, originally I was trying to find a way that you could take a screenshot of your stuff. You can take a screenshot, but I'd still like to be able to look around it. So you have a folder that you've been dropping all your game stuff into. So when I did my demo, I showed using that geometry folder as your repository for all of your stuff. So all you have to do is turn your geometry folder in. Okay. And what that does is when I drop your geometry folder into my geometry folder, it will populate it with all that stuff. Now you have to make sure that you've named it accordingly so I don't have 20 geometry folders. That would make sense. So I'm going to copy it to my desktop. And they're not huge. Like for the stuff that I'm bringing in, I have 150 megabytes with all the stuff I brought in. Sarcona geometry. Okay, so that's what you're going to turn in to the Z drive. I don't have the Z drive on here. So 2520, turn in, game props, and environment. I'll just rename that. And then you'll just paste your geometry folder in there. Okay, and that way when I grade these, all I have to do is I drop all these folders into my geometry folder, and it will just populate everything. And then I can just see, I go into your folder, and then I can see all the work you've done. All the models are there, all the textures are there, all the shaders that you've done are all right there. So it's going to make it super simple to grade those. Yes, when you do your gaming stuff. Okay. All right. So I want you to go through and I want you to have it set up in the back of the room. You can even, and I typically don't do this, but if you had a turntable, you could put the item on a turntable and just turn it, and it will recognize that the item is rotating as opposed to you moving it around. Your hand would get in the way because as you put your hand in there, it may recognize that that's an item, and then it's like something's changed. To get out? No, not to cut out. I think it would just because you're constantly moving it, it would do that. Right. You want to find something like with motors, right? Yeah, or even if you had something with magnets or whatever, something like that. Cool. So I'll have that set up in the back, and then just a little like just a quick-ish thing about ZBrush. Okay. Has anyone not used ZBrush before? 2, 3, 4. Okay. So the ZBrush interface is incredibly like scary. Maya is as scary, but not as scary as the ZBrush is because there's so many menus up here, and you typically we're used to going up here, but most of the stuff is going to happen over on this side. Okay, that's most of our stuff that we're going to play with is over there. So the first thing we want to do is create an item. Okay, so we go over here to the tool, and everything that we're going to be doing is a tool. Your geometry is a tool. Okay. So initially, ZBrush was created as a 2D tool. So if I click on this cylinder and I start painting it, you'll see there's a cylinder. And if I click and drag again, there's another one. I click and drag again, there's another one. And what it's doing is it's kind of actually amazing. It's actually recognizing that that cylinder is 3D and actually drawing each one of these shapes on that 3D surface. Okay, so even though it looks like it's 2D, because we can't really spin around right now, if I try to spin around, you'll see that I get this weird thing happening there. Okay, it's actually all 2D right now. That's all we're dealing with. So I'm going to go and clear this. So I go up to Document and I say New. No, we don't need to save anything. And I'm going to draw another cylinder. Now this time I'm going to hit T, and what T does is it puts it in edit mode. So you kind of think of that like cinema, where we have to hit the C key to get into that edit mode so we can edit the points. Okay, so we hit T, and that gets us into the edit mode. Now I can just click and drag. I don't have to hold anything else down. I can click and drag around. See, I'm not touching it, around it to see what the other parts look like. Okay, if I hold Alt and I left click and drag, it will pan it around like this. If I Alt right, Control, what's that button? Control right click and drag, there it is. Then it will zoom me in and out. Okay, and then F will be your framer. That's like most programs, except for Cinema for some reason, F is your framer. Now, I can't really do anything with this item that's 3D right now, except for some very basic manipulation. I could go in there and change the height of it or the depth of it, or maybe I think I can go over here to deformation and play with some stuff too. But it's basically just like a floating object. I need to make it a polygon. So I go over here to where it says Make Polymesh, and I click that button. Okay, so now it's an actual polygon that I can tweak. So now it's a polygon, now it's 3D. I'm going to play with some of these brushes. So over here, and you're going to see a million brushes come up in a second, like that. For 20 bucks, I subscribe to this guy online who sells ZBrush brushes, and I get a lifetime membership. So every time he creates new brushes, I get new brushes. Now I could make them all myself, but it's for 20 bucks. I couldn't pass up that deal. It's like incredibly awesome. So these are all the different kinds of brushes, all the different things we can do. So think of 20 bucks flat. It's pretty awesome. The standard brush, if I just click and drag, you'll see it kind of pulls the points away from here. Okay. Now we can't really see it, but there's a wireframe that's going around this entire thing. And as I click and drag, it's pulling those points at the wireframe off of the surface. Hit undo. If I go to my poly frame over here, you don't need to do this to do anything. I just want you to see it. You can see the wireframe. Okay. So there you can see it. Not a whole lot of divisions. So the biggest thing about ZBrush is that we can have millions of divisions, like 20 million, 50 million divisions on a surface. The more divisions you have, the more detail you can put into that surface. So hotkeys, Control D adds divisions. So every time I hit Control D, it's smoothing out the item more and more and more. Okay. Now, if I were to click and drag, you'll see how smooth I can create a shape. Now, a minute ago, I couldn't do that because I didn't have enough divisions. So I needed to make sure I had enough divisions so I can create this nice shape. Okay, cool. Now, if I hit Control D a couple more times, it'll just keep adding more divisions and adding more divisions. Up here is the count. So that's how many divisions I have. So right now I have 2 million divisions on this thing. And again, the more divisions you have, the more detail you can put into your item. Like you can see even on here, I actually have like it's so much divisions, I have like the ripples from that brush. Okay. And I can even make my brush smaller. So here's your Z intensity, which is how much it's pulling it or pushing it, my draw size, and then my focal shift. And the cool thing with ZBrush 2 is that all the hotkeys are right next to it. I'm going to try not to face away from my microphone. My hotkeys are right here. So there's the Z intensity, says U, and then that one's S, and that one's O. Again, crazy awesome things that will help save you a boatload of time. Set you down. So I'm going to hit S and change my brush size. See how it comes up right where my brush is. Now look how fine I can draw a path. I hit S, shrink it down even more. See, that's the kind of detail that you may want on a character. So if you have a character that has like veins in their hands or they have skin pores and you want to create that detail, that's how many divisions, actually more divisions than you would need. Okay, and you can see them from way back here. All right, so that's the standard brush, and it's just pushing and pulling it. So another brush would be, I'll just show you a fun brush. This is one of the ones I bought. This is Terrain. So if I spin this around, change my brush size a little bit bigger, Z intensity down some, maybe a little bit more. So what this is doing is instead of it being a brush where I'm clicking and dragging, it's called a drag brush. So I'm basically dragging a shape, and then it's like stamping it on there. I'll go even higher so you can really see this. There we go. Okay, so now there's like a little mountain right there. I can make little mountains all around this. Okay, it's amazing. What else do we have here? Here's stitches. Let's switch to the other side. Now, I think this one is a dragging brush. Yes. Okay, this is doing something different. This is a path brush. I know. I have to do that after. I can't do that now. I have to show you that one later because it's a special tool that you need to do. Here's creature skin. So if I'm trying to do some alien skin, this is like, yeah, it's just like creepy skin. Crazy. And what else do we have here? Here's ice cracks. There we go. Okay, so imagine using this kind of thing because people for games will use ZBrush for their games too, because very quickly you can actually, instead of texturing something where it looks like it has the detail, you can actually paint the detail into ZBrush and then use that to create your textures that will then go on your game, which is again like super awesome. All right, so now Control D was our hotkey that added divisions, smooth this out, smooth this out. So Shift D takes the divisions away. Okay. Now it's not actually taking them away. What it's doing is letting us see what it looked like before we added those divisions. So imagine like in Maya, you smooth something out, and then you're like, dang it, I want to go back to before I smoothed it out, and I want to do some work on it. You could hit Shift D inside of ZBrush and do that. And then you can do your same brushes that you did before. So here I'm just using that standard brush and just kind of pulling some pieces out. Okay, so I'm just using the standard brush. And then I hit, instead of Control D, because Control D adds divisions, I need to go with just D. Okay, so Control D adds divisions, Shift D lets us see what those divisions look like, and then regular D goes the other way. Okay, so sometimes what I'll do, or what people will do, is they'll be down here and they want to go to that next level, so they'll hit Control D. And it says you can't do that. Control D, you can't do that. So you look up here, right there it says I have this many active points and I have this many total points. That means I need to go up with regular D to see those. Okay. So if you get into ZBrush, or when you get into ZBrush, just create a basic object and just get used to kind of going over here to the brushes and experimenting with some of those brushes that are in there. Okay. No, this is for we're going to do something else in ZBrush. The game prop is all Maya in Substance and Unreal. And then I'll show you this other thing real quick. This is really awesome. Okay. So here's I clicked on the cylinder here and my shape went away, but it didn't really because it's right there. So very quickly I can add another shape and go back to that one. So I'm going to click on Make Polymesh 3D with this one. I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go back to stitches. Where were they? It is a lot of brushes, isn't it? XMD. Some guy online. I forget his name. Michael something. And you see all the different kinds, like cracks and whatever else. Yeah, rover tread. That's cool. Footprint. Yeah, he had a whole series of like craters and moon stuff. If you go to ZBrush, they actually have a free collection of brushes that you can get. They're not as nice as this guy's. Where did I see stitches? They're driving me crazy. They do, but the search feature only works for the first letter. Yes, it is. There they are, stitches. Okay. So I'm going to Control D a bunch of times on this one. And in order for my stitches to work, I have to delete all my lower sizes. Okay, so basically like this is my lowest resolution I can go. Now when I draw this out, now I'll get stitches that are in there. And then I just Control drag off this, and then boom, I have stitches. It's super awesome. And then they also have these other ones like this. So if I hit M, these are all the different things. So this is an Imm brush, meaning that it's basically like one piece of geometry inside other pieces of geometry. Okay, so I can pick like I want zipper. And go, yep, and then I hit M again, and I can grab the other side. Oops, I have to drag off that first. There we go. Oh, come on. Stop it. There we go. I can just click on that and it'll change it. I'm not want to change it. I want to add a new one. Or I can just do this and then I'll have a brand new zipper with the thing. It's pretty awesome. They have a whole bunch of stuff in here though. Okay, so experiment with some of the brushes. Some of these you're not going to be able to play with, or they're not going to do anything. Like the select lasso, if I do that, it doesn't do anything. You have to hit a special combination to do it. Don't worry about the special combination stuff. Just take a few minutes, get into ZBrush, and just kind of play around with it a little bit. Especially if you get frustrated with doing one of the other assignments, just jump into ZBrush and get frustrated with that one. Okay. Saving is just Control S. Don't go up here to save as or export. Don't do that. There's more stuff up here. Don't do that. Just hit Control S and then save your document where it needs to go. Okay. Also, I would recommend going to YouTube and just watching either speed sculpts